Hang in there, sir. We're getting you to the hospital.
Grandpa, I love you. Don't leave me.
Vitals are dropping. We have to go now.
Please, she pleaded, her chest rising rapidly as she struggled for breath between crying. Please, you have to follow me home. My grandpa, he won't wake up. I've been trying and trying, but he won't move, and I don't know what to do. Jake knelt down, his large, tattooed hands surprisingly tender as he steadied the shaking child. His face, worn and scarred from years on the road, softened with worry. Hey, it's okay now. We're here. What's your name, sweetheart? Aaliyah, she whispered, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Aaliyah Martinez. My grandpa. He fell down this morning and I can't wake him up. I tried to use the phone, but it doesn't work. I ran and ran until I saw you. Jake exchanged looks with his brothers. Tommy Wrench Johnson, their road captain, was already pulling out his device. Sarah Phoenix Kim, one of only 2 women in the club, crouched down beside Aaliyah and gently examined her feet. How far did you run, honey? Sarah asked softly. I don't know. A really long way through the fields and past the old church. Jake made a quick decision. Wrench, call 911 and tell them we may have a medical emergency. Phoenix, you ride with me. Aaliyah can sit between us. The rest of you follow. Aaliyah, can you show us the way? The little girl nodded, her eyes widening as Jake lifted her onto his motorcycle. Sarah climbed on behind her, wrapping one arm protectively around the child while holding on with the other. The convoy of motorcycles came to life, following Aaliyah's pointed directions as they left the main road. Before we continue, if you believe in the power of unexpected heroes and the compassion that lives in unlikely places, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep bringing these heart-touching stories to life. The path Aaliyah led them down was rougher than Jake expected. They traveled along a dusty rural road that gave way to a narrow dirt track, passing abandoned farmland and overgrown fields. The other riders, Big Mike, Diesel, Raven, Hammer, and Johnny Chains, followed close behind, their concern deepening with every mile. This little girl had run an incredible distance, and the isolation of the area made Jake's stomach tighten with worry. After nearly 20 minutes, Aaliyah pointed to a small, weathered mobile home barely visible behind a cluster of oak trees. The property was surrounded by a sagging chain-link fence, and an old pickup truck sat on cinder blocks in the front yard. As they pulled up, Jake noticed there were no other houses in sight. The nearest neighbor had to be miles away. The riders parked their motorcycles and followed Aaliyah as she ran toward the front door, which stood slightly open. Jake caught it before she could rush inside. Let me go first, Aaliyah. You stay with Phoenix. He stepped through the doorway into the dim interior, his eyes adjusting to the low light. The mobile home was sparse, but clean, with mismatched furniture and faded photographs covering the walls. The smell of coffee and breakfast hung in the air, suggesting someone had started their morning routine hours ago. Jake moved carefully through the narrow hallway, his boots creaking on the thin floor until he found what he was looking for. In the small bedroom at the end of the hall, an elderly man lay motionless on the floor beside the bed. He appeared to be in his 70s, his weathered brown skin pale, and his breathing shallow. Jake quickly knelt and checked for a pulse. Weak, but present. We need that ambulance now, he called out to the others. Wrench appeared in the doorway. They're on their way, but we're so far out. It's going to be at least 15 minutes. I gave them the landmarks. Jake began checking the man for injuries, while Big Mike, who had served as a combat medic in the Marines, pushed past to help. Mike's trained eyes quickly assessed the situation. Looks like a stroke. Mike said quietly, checking the man's pupils and the way one side of his face drooped. See how his left side isn't responding? We need to keep him stable and comfortable until the paramedics arrive. Outside, Sarah had gathered Aaliyah into her arms as the little girl sobbed against her denim jacket. The other riders stood in a protective circle, their intimidating appearances masking the deep concern etched on their faces. Diesel, the club's sergeant-at-arms, was pacing, his jaw clenched. Hammer and Chains had begun searching the property for any other family members or emergency contact information. "Aaliyah, honey," Sarah said gently, "is it just you and your grandpa living here?" Aaliyah nodded, her voice small and broken. "My mom, she died when I was little. Car accident. And my dad, he's in the military, deployed somewhere far away. Grandpa Joe is all I have. He can't die too." "Please don't let him die." Sarah's eyes glistened with tears as she hugged the child tighter. She had lost her own mother at a young age and understood that fear all too well. "Your grandpa is strong, and help is coming. You did exactly the right thing by finding us." Raven, a quiet rider with a long gray beard, approached with a discovery that made everyone's hearts sink. "Found this on the kitchen table," he said, holding up a stack of papers. "Eviction notice. Final warning from the electric company. Past due medical bills." He lowered his voice. "They're about to lose this place." Jake emerged from the mobile home, his expression grim. "Mike's with him. How's Lily?" "Scared," Sarah replied. "And from what Raven found, they've been struggling hard." The distant sound of sirens finally broke through the evening air. 2 ambulances and a sheriff's deputy arrived. The paramedics rushed inside with their equipment, while the deputy approached the group of riders with cautious curiosity. Jake quickly explained the situation, and the deputy's suspicious expression softened when he saw Lily clinging to Sarah. "Deputy Rodriguez," the officer introduced himself. "You folks did a good thing today. This area is pretty isolated. If that little girl hadn't found someone, her grandfather likely wouldn't have made it." The paramedics worked efficiently, stabilizing Grandpa Joe and loading him onto a stretcher. As they wheeled him out, Lily broke free from Sarah's arms and ran to his side, her small hand grasping his weathered one. "Grandpa Joe, please wake up," she whispered. "Please don't leave me." One of the paramedics, a kind-faced woman named Patricia, knelt beside Lily. "Sweetheart, we're taking your grandpa to the hospital, where doctors can help him. He's alive because of you. You're so brave." "Can I go with him?" Lily asked, her voice breaking. Patricia looked at the deputy, who nodded. "We'll make arrangements. Is there any other family we should contact?" "Her father's deployed military," Jake interjected. "Somebody needs to track him down and get him emergency leave." The deputy made notes. "I'll contact the Red Cross. They handle military notifications. In the meantime, does the child have anywhere to go?" The question hung in the air. Lily had no one nearby, and the thought of her being placed with strangers, possibly in foster care, while her grandfather fought for his life, seemed unbearable to everyone present. Sarah spoke up before anyone else could. "She can stay with me. I've got a guest room, and my place is close to the hospital. At least until her dad can get here or her grandpa recovers." Deputy Rodriguez looked surprised but relieved. "I'll need to do a quick background check and contact social services. But given the emergency circumstances and the fact that she sought you out for help, I think we can arrange temporary placement." As the ambulance pulled away with Lily and her grandfather, Jake gathered his club members. "Brothers, sister, we need to talk." They huddled near their bikes as the sun continued its descent, casting long shadows across the dusty property. Jake looked at each face, these men and women who society often judged by their appearance, their patches, their lifestyle. But he knew the truth about who they really were. That little girl's got nobody right now. Her grandpa's fighting for his life, her dad's overseas, and they're about to lose their home. I say we do something about it. "I'm in," Wrench said immediately, "whenever it takes." One by one, the others nodded their agreement. These were people who understood hardship, who knew what it meant to be counted out, to be alone. Many had come from broken homes themselves, had found family not through blood, but through brotherhood and shared purpose. Over the next week, the Thunder Riders Club mobilized in a way that shocked the small community. Word spread quickly about what had happened. How a desperate little girl had sought help from a group of bikers and found unexpected heroes. The local news picked up the story, and suddenly donations began pouring in. But the bikers didn't wait for charity. They acted immediately. Wrench, who owned an auto repair shop, organized a fundraising car show. Diesel used his connections in the construction industry to get materials donated for repairs to the mobile home. Phoenix worked with local businesses to gather furniture, clothes, and school supplies. Big Mike, utilizing his medical background, coordinated with the hospital to ensure Grandpa Joe received the best care and helped navigate the complex billing situation. Jake himself spent hours on the phone with the Red Cross and military liaison offices pushing to get Lily's father home. He also contacted a lawyer friend who agreed to help fight the eviction notice pro bono. At the hospital, Lily stayed by her grandfather's side whenever visiting hours allowed. Sarah had indeed taken her in, and the little girl had bonded quickly with the tough biker woman who had shown her such tenderness. Phoenix taught Lily to braid her hair properly, helped her with homework, and made sure she ate regular meals. Small acts of care that Lily had been missing while her grandfather struggled to provide for them both. Grandpa Joe, whose full name was Joseph Martinez, had indeed suffered a severe stroke. The doctor said that without immediate treatment, he would have died. As it was, he faced a long recovery, but he was alive. When he finally regained consciousness 3 days after the incident, his first word was Lily. "She's safe," Jake told him, standing beside the hospital bed with his arms crossed, his imposing figure somehow comforting. "Fix has her. She's being fed. She's sleeping in a real bed, and she asks about you every hour." Tears rolled down Joe's weathered cheeks. "I tried to take care of her, but the bills, I couldn't keep up. Lost my job at the plant last year. Too old." They said, "Been doing odd jobs, but it wasn't enough." "You did keep her safe," Jake said firmly. "You raised a brave, smart girl who knew how to ask for help when it mattered most. That's good parenting right there." Over the following weeks, the transformation was remarkable. The Thunder Riders Club, with help from a community that had initially been wary of them, completely renovated the mobile home. They replaced the faulty wiring that had caused the power issues, fixed the plumbing, repaired the roof, and even built a small covered porch where Joe could sit in the evenings. The interior was painted, new appliances were installed, and the home was stocked with food and necessities. When Lily's father, Sergeant David Martinez, finally arrived home on emergency leave 2 weeks after the incident, he was overwhelmed by what he found. He had been stationed in South Korea, and the journey home had been agonizing as he feared the worst. Instead, he arrived to find his daughter healthy and cared for, his father recovering in a good hospital, and a community of unlikely guardians who had stepped up in his absence. The reunion at the hospital was emotional. Lily ran into her father's arms, and even the tough bikers standing nearby had to wipe their eyes. David, still in his uniform, turned to Jake and extended his hand. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "They told me what you all did, what my daughter found when she ran to you. You could have just made a phone call, but you did so much more." Jake shook his hand firmly. "Your daughter's a hero, Sergeant. She saved her grandpa's life. We just helped clean up the details. But the club had done more than that. With the money raised from the car show and private donations, including a significant contribution from the club's treasury, They had established a trust fund for Lily's education. They had also worked with local employers to secure a part-time job for Joe once he recovered. One that wouldn't be too physically demanding, but would allow him to maintain his pride and contribute to his family. The local veterans organization, impressed by the bikers' dedication to helping a military family, reached out to establish a partnership. They created a program where the Thunder Riders Club would be notified whenever a deployed service member's family needed assistance. The bikers, many of whom were veterans themselves, embraced this new role with enthusiasm. 3 months after that fateful day, the community held a celebration at the renovated mobile home. Neighbors who hadn't spoken to Joe in years came by to welcome him back and to meet the bikers who had changed everything. Local businesses provided food, and children played in the yard, while adults shared stories and laughter. Lily, wearing a new dress that Phoenix had bought her, stood between her grandfather, who was walking with a cane but smiling broadly, and her father, who had been granted extended leave to help with the recovery. She watched as Jake and his club members arrived on their motorcycles, the rumble of engines no longer a source of fear, but of comfort and joy. "Grandpa Joe," Lily said, tugging on his sleeve, "can I go say hi?" "Of course, mija," he replied, his speech still slightly slurred, but improving every day. Lily ran across the yard and threw her arms around Jake's waist. The big biker lifted her up effortlessly, settling her on his hip as naturally as if she were his own granddaughter. "How's my favorite brave girl?" he asked. "Good," Lily beamed. "Daddy says we can stay here now. He's getting stationed somewhere closer when his deployment ends. And Grandpa Joe is getting better every day. The doctor said he's really strong." "That's because strength runs in your family," Jake said, setting her down gently. "You proved that when you ran for help instead of giving up." Phoenix approached with a gift box. "This is from all of us," she said, handing it to Lily. Inside was a denim vest, child-sized, with a special patch sewn on the back. It wasn't a club patch. The Thunder Riders would never compromise their traditions, but rather a custom design that read, "Honorary Little Sister with an angel's wing design." Lily's eyes went wide with wonder. "We wanted you to know that you're part of our family now," Phoenix explained, her voice soft. "Whenever you need anything, you can count on us." As the sun set over the property that evening, Joe stood on his new porch, watching the celebration. Deputy Rodriguez had stopped by, no longer in uniform, but as a friend. Sarah was teaching Lily and some other neighborhood kids how to play a card game. The other bikers were helping David set up a grill, sharing military stories and jokes. The sound of laughter filled the air where there had once been only struggle and silence. Jake joined Joe on the porch, handing him a cold drink. The two men stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the scene before them. "You know," Joe said finally, "before all this, I thought I was going to lose everything. I thought I had failed Lily, failed my son. I was too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to admit I couldn't do it alone anymore." "Pride can be dangerous," Jake agreed, "but so can judgment. Most people see us and make assumptions. See the denim, the patches, the bikes, and think they know who we are. But this club, it's about family. It's about loyalty. It's about standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves." Joe turned to face him. "Lily talks about you all constantly. You and Phoenix especially. She says Phoenix braids her hair better than I ever could." He chuckled, then grew serious. "She has nightmares sometimes about that day, about finding me on the floor and being alone. But then she remembers that she found you, and she feels safe again." "She's always going to be safe," Jake promised. "We keep our word. We are here for the long haul." And they were. In the months and years that followed, the relationship between the Thunder Riders Club and the Martinez family deepened. When Lily started school, Phoenix attended her school events alongside her father and grandfather. When Joe had follow-up medical appointments, there was always a biker available to drive him. When David's unit was redeployed briefly before his transfer went through, the club made sure Joe and Lily were never alone. The story spread beyond the local community. National news outlets picked it up, intrigued by the narrative of tough bikers becoming unlikely heroes to a desperate child. Some tried to paint it as unusual or surprising, but those who knew the Thunder Riders understood this was exactly who they had always been: people who protected the vulnerable, who valued loyalty above all else, and who understood that family wasn't always defined by blood. The club began receiving letters from other communities asking for help establishing similar programs. Jake and his team developed guidelines for how motorcycle clubs could partner with local organizations to support at-risk families, veterans, and children in need. What had started as one little girl's desperate plea for help had sparked a movement. Years later, Lily would stand at her high school graduation, the scholarship fund the bikers had established for her, making college possible. As she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, she saw them in the audience: Jake, Phoenix, Wrench, and the others. Some grayer now, but still there, still family. They cheered louder than anyone else, their pride evident. In her valedictorian speech, Lily shared her story. She spoke about the day she ran through fields and along dusty roads, terrified and alone, until she saw a group of motorcycles parked outside a diner. She talked about how easy it would have been to judge them by their appearance, to assume they wouldn't care about a scared little girl. Instead, she had found heroes. People are not always what they seem, she told her classmates and the assembled crowd. Kindness doesn't have a dress code. Compassion doesn't require a certain look or lifestyle. The people who saved my grandfather and changed my family's life forever are people who society often dismisses or fears. But they taught me that real strength is using your power to help others. Real courage is standing up when nobody expects you to. And real family is the people who show up when you need them most, no matter what. As the audience erupted in applause, Jake wiped his eyes, not caring who saw the tears. Beside him, Phoenix squeezed his arm. "We did good, boss," she whispered. "Nah," Jake replied, his voice rough with emotion. "Lily did good. She just gave us the chance to prove who we really are." That evening, there was a celebration at the Martinez home. Now fully paid off, thanks to the ongoing support from the community and the bikers' fundraising efforts. Lily, surrounded by family, both blood and chosen, looked around at the faces that had become so dear to her. Her father, now stationed nearby and working as a recruiter. Her grandfather, recovered and healthy, working part-time at Wrench's auto shop, where he had found new purpose. And the members of the Thunder Riders Club, who had kept their promise and remained constant presences in her life. As the evening grew late and the crowd thinned, Lily found Jake standing alone by the fence, looking out at the darkening fields. "Jake," she approached quietly, "I never properly thanked you." He turned, surprised. "Lily, you thanked us 100 times." "Not for everything," she insisted. "Not for teaching me that asking for help isn't weakness, that accepting support doesn't make you a burden, that family is whoever shows up and stays." She paused, her eyes bright. "You changed my life that day, but you also changed how I see the world. You taught me not to judge, to look deeper, to appreciate people for who they are, not what they appear to be." Jake pulled her into a gentle hug. "You taught us something too, kid. You reminded us why we ride, why we exist as a club. It's not about the image or the reputation. It's about being there when someone needs help, about building something bigger than ourselves. You gave us purpose that day. As the stars emerged overhead and the sound of laughter drifted from the house, Jake thought about that moment in the diner parking lot when a desperate little girl had run toward a group of bikers asking for help. He thought about how easily they could have made a phone call and ridden away, how they could have helped without getting involved. Instead, they had done what the Thunder Riders had always been meant to do. They had shown up, stayed pleasant, and become family. The story of Lily Martinez and the Thunder Riders had become local legend, a reminder that heroes come in all forms, that compassion knows no boundaries, and that sometimes the most unlikely people become exactly who you need them to be. It was a testament to the power of community, the importance of looking beyond appearances, and the truth that in our darkest moments, help can come from the most unexpected places. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Bike Diaries. It helps us keep sharing these powerful reminders that kindness still exists in the world, sometimes in the places we least expect to find it. And remember, if you ever see someone in need, don't hesitate to help. You might just change a life, and in doing so, change your own. The evening ended with Lily teaching some of the younger bikers, new members who had joined, inspired by the club's reputation for community service, how to play the card game Phoenix had once taught her. As motorcycles eventually roared to life and the celebration wound down, one truth remained clear. A little girl's desperate run for help had connected two worlds that many thought could never meet, and in doing so had proven that love, compassion, and family can be found anywhere, worn by anyone, and built in the most extraordinary ways. Thunder rumbled from motorcycle engines filled the peaceful parking area of a highway eatery as daylight faded toward nightfall. 7 riders from the local Thunder Riders Club had paused for refreshments during their evening journey, their denim jackets and club insignias drawing interested looks from other customers. Jake Steele Morrison, the club leader, was about to mount his custom bike when a sound pierced through the hum of running motors. A child's urgent cry. He pivoted to witness a young girl, maybe 7 years old, racing across the lot toward them. Her face was drenched with tears. Her braided hair had loosened partially, and her yellow dress was covered in debris. She was barefoot, her tiny feet slightly injured from running on hot concrete. The other riders immediately turned off their engines as the child stumbled toward them, nearly falling from exhaustion.